It was Christmas Eve morning at the North Pole. Everywhere you looked, there was activity. There was still so much to do before Santa's sleigh took off. Santa was just then checking his list the second time around when Mrs. Claus brought something to his attention. It was a letter they had just received. Dear Mr. Santa, it read, Mayor Fussbudget has canceled Christmas here in Gloomsbury. Can he do this? Can you help? Please advise. Yours truly, a concerned citizen. How could anyone have canceled Christmas? There wasn't a moment to waste. And so, pressing the letter G on his new touch-tone telephone, Santa was able to speed dial his dear friends, the Prince and Princess of Gingerbread, faster than he could say, ho, ho, ho.
Ginger,
He said.
Spice, a terrible thing has happened. I've received a letter that says they've canceled Christmas in Gloomsbury. I shall have to enlist your diplomatic services at once. Please meet me at the train station in 10 minutes.
As Ginger and Spice stood on the steps of the train, Santa gave them their special instructions.
As the North Pole's own royal ambassadors of goodwill, it is your mission to reinstate Christmas in Gloomsbury.
We will not fail you, Santa, Ginger said. Long live Christmas, said Spice. And with that, they gave him a final Christmas salute, and the train pulled away toward the distant town of Gloomsbury. Now, when Spice and Ginger arrived in Gloomsbury, they could hardly believe their eyes. There wasn't a single Christmas decoration in sight. Not a red bulb, nor a green bulb, nor a Christmas star anywhere. Then they saw a newspaper headline. Mayor cancels Christmas. Yuletide hoopla just a waste of time, he declares. They really have canceled Christmas.
No kidding,
said a voice. A little girl poked her head out from behind the newspaper. Haven't you heard? The mayor says Christmas is unproductive. Merry Christmas, said Spice. And who are you? The name's Hank. Don't wear it out, though, boy. What's with the cookie get-ups? We are the Prince and Princess of Gingerbread from the North Pole. Santa sent us. Have a candy cane, Miss Hank, said Ginger, taking one out from her suitcase. But Hank wasn't buying. Sorry, sister, she said. I can't eat candy canes. They're illegal. Well, Merry Christmas, said Ginger and Spice as they set off to begin their work. But it wasn't going to be easy to bring Christmas back to Gloomsbury. You see, the mayor of Gloomsbury, Franklin Peppercorn Fussbudget III, had canceled Christmas because he thought it was a waste of time. As far as he was concerned, all holidays took up valuable time that might have been better spent working.
Chief O'Hara, I hereby order you to arrest anyone who so much as mentions Christmas.
Yes, sir, he said. Anyone so much as whispers Merry Christmas, I'll call in the SWAT team.
Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas, shouted Ginger and Spice as they entered the Gloomsbury grocery store. The people in the store seemed startled. No one said anything, and when they tried to hand out candy canes, no one seemed very interested. Christmas?
Egad, you can't say that here. Didn't anyone tell you that Mayor Fussbudget canceled Christmas?
Why, you're liable to get arrested talking like that, said one of the women.
That's right, little Spice Man. You might end up in the slammer.
The slammer? But what is the slammer? said Spice.
Why, it's jail, that's what it is, one of them answered. It's the Pokey Smoky, the Hooskow, the Joint, the Clink, the Jug, up the river, the Big House.
I think we get the picture, said Spice. And now, if you'll excuse us?
The store manager, hearing the commotion, came out from the back of the store. What seems to be the problem here, ladies?
These two jailbirds here are harassing us about Santa Claus. They even tried to bribe us.
Bribe you? Said the manager.
Yes, with candy canes.
Hey, you kids, said the manager. Where'd you get those candy canes?
Wow, they said they were from Santa Claus,
said one of the women. Oh, sure they are, replied the manager. Let me see that. With that, he grabbed the bag full of candy canes. But Ginger and Spice wouldn't let go. Suddenly, the bag burst open and candy canes flew everywhere. Just then, Chief O'Hara appeared. Chief, the manager said, arrest these two. They're a couple of crookies.
Well, they're trying to celebrate Christmas, said one of the women.
Oh, Christmas, eh? Said the chief. It's jail for you two. Ginger and Spice looked at each other.
The slammer! Run!
Ginger and Spice ran into the Gloomsbury City Zoo. Chief O'Hara and the store manager chased them into the crowd of spectators. But when they'd gotten all the way through the people, they found themselves smack up against the base of a large cage. They were now completely trapped. Then the police chief spotted them.
It is hopeless, said Spice. The jig is up,
shouted Ginger.
We shall have to take desperate measures.
Ginger looked at the bars of the cage.
Climb! We must climb!
They climbed as fast as they could. But before they knew what was happening, they found themselves face to face with the gigantic white figure of Ralph the polar bear. Ginger, said Ralph. Spice! What on earth are you two doing here?
Mr. Ralph,
cried Ginger and Spice with delight.
We are so glad to see you. Santa sent us to bring Christmas to Gloomsbury,
said Spice.
And they are trying to arrest us,
said Ginger. The police chief saw that Ralph was holding Ginger and Spice. Good work, Ralph, he said. You collared the criminals. But these aren't criminals, officer, Ralph said. They're a couple old pals of mine from the North Pole. Why, they're the prince and the princess of Gingerbread. Polar royalty or no, the chief said. Christmas is against the law. That's what you think, Ralph laughed. Let's give it to 'em, kids. With that, Ralph grabbed his top hat, flipped on his cassette deck, and in no time, Ginger and Spice were joining him in an old Christmas song and dance number they'd performed together many times before. Soon, everyone was dancing and laughing and clapping. And although they didn't realize it at the time, they were all getting into the spirit of Christmas. At the end of the song, Herb, the president of the Gloomsbury chapter of the Order of Royal Woodchucks, stepped forward. He presented Ginger and Spice with tickets to the opera for that very night.
Just a little token of Gloomsbury's appreciation for your efforts,
he said.
Thanks, Herb,
said Ralph.
and Merry Christmas.
But when Mayor Fussbudget heard about what happened at the zoo, he became decidedly unhappy.
That does it,
he fumed.
Those cookies must be stopped.
When Ginger and Spice arrived at the Gloomsbury Opera House, they were surprised to find that the star singer was none other than Madame Bubbles Tonsillipovich, their very own childhood babysitter. And after her final aria, a messenger informed Madame Tonsillipovich that Ginger and Spice were in the audience, and she immediately invited them up onto the stage with her. Ralph came too. "Citizens of Gloomsbury," announced Spice, "Merry Christmas."
You can't say that, cried someone in the audience. It's against the law. Christmas has been canceled.
"But Christmas is uncancelable," said Ginger. "It is a spirit that cannot be suppressed." "My sister speaks the truth," said Spice. "Christmas is a state of mind, not a zoning regulation. It is the love that we feel for one another."
But the audience continued to yell and argue and jeer. Just then, Madame Tonsillipovich whispered something to Ginger, Spice, and Ralph. Suddenly, the four of them held hands and began singing the national anthem of the North Pole. Soon, the people in the audience began to listen. And before long, they were singing and shouting and dancing in the aisles. After all, it was Christmas Eve. Now, the only people in the building who were not singing and dancing were the mayor and Police Chief O'Hara. The chief was the first one to spot Ginger and Spice.
I believe they're the two in the middle with the frosting, sir.
The mayor became so angry at what he saw that as soon as the song was over, he marched out onto the stage and ordered Chief O'Hara to arrest Ginger and Spice. "Boo!" cried the audience. "Boo! The next person who boos is under arrest," the mayor said. Everyone stopped booing except for one voice in the crowd. "Boo! Boo! Who is that?" the mayor demanded.
Boo!
But when the mayor saw who it was, he nearly fell over backwards.
Boo!
It was Hank.
Boo!
"Henrietta Fussbudget," said the mayor. The audience gasped, and Ginger and Spice looked at each other in surprise. Hank was the mayor's daughter? "Please don't arrest him, Daddy," cried Hank. "It's Christmas." "It is not Christmas. Christmas has been canceled." And with that, he and Chief O'Hara led Ginger and Spice away. Oh, but Hank wouldn't give up that easily.
"Ladies and gentlemen of Bloomsbury,"
She shouted.
"our voices must be heard. We can't let Christmas die without a fight."
And before she knew what she had said, the huge crowd was carrying her out of the opera house and into the street. Now, back at City Hall, the mayor and Chief O'Hara were puzzling over Ginger and Spice. "I insist that you tell us who sent you here to start trouble in our town, and don't give me that story about Santa Claus and the North Pole again."
"But Santa did send us,"
said Ginger. Ginger looked at the big clock on the wall. It was already 10 o'clock.
"Santa will come soon,"
she said.
"Please believe us. We are telling the truth."
But just then there was a commotion outside the mayor's window. He
He ran to see what it was and saw that the whole town was congregated on the steps of City Hall. It was a protest. And who was leading the protest? Hank!
What's going on? The mayor said angrily. That does it. Arrest the whole town, O'Hara. I know it's not going to make either of us very popular, but we've got to preserve the peace.
But it's almost Christmas,
the chief said before he could catch himself. Not you two. How many times do I have to say it? Santa is not coming, and neither is Christmas.
But just as the mayor was saying this, Prince and Princess heard a faint sound of sleigh bells in the sky above Gloomsbury. They ran to the window. The sound grew louder.
Look, said Ginger. It is Santa. It is Santa Claus.
The mayor couldn't believe what he was seeing. In a moment, the prince and princess emerged from City Hall, followed by the mayor and the chief. There were huge cheers from everyone.
Ho, 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 said Santa. Merry Christmas, everyone! Merry Christmas, Gloomsbury! And Merry Christmas, Mayor Fussbudget! One of your citizens sent me a letter informing me that you had cancelled Christmas here in Gloomsbury. But I see that Ginger and Spice have straightened things out.
The mayor blushed.
I see that canceling Christmas was a big mistake. The crowd cheered wildly.
I apologize, the mayor said, to each and every one of you. I guess I got a little carried away. I only wish that the person who wrote that letter would step forward so I could thank them personally.
A murmur went through the crowd. Who had sent the letter? Everyone looked around.
I sent the letter, Daddy, said a voice.
It was Hank.
You?
Said the mayor in surprise.
My own daughter?
Santa smiled.
She certainly has got the Christmas spirit, hasn't she?
Mayor Fussbudget put his arm around Hank and smiled.
I sure am proud of you, Henrietta.
Spice and Ginger, you have done a fine job, Santa said. But now we must be going. I've got quite a few more stops to make tonight.
Ginger and Spice climbed aboard the sleigh.
Merry Christmas, citizens of Gloomsbury,
they said. Merry Christmas, Ginger and Spice, said all the people. Merry Christmas, Santa. Then they watched as the sleigh took off into the starry night above the town. Everyone felt warm and happy, especially the mayor and Hank. Christmas had come to Gloomsbury after all.